Greetings. Welcome back to the broadcast. I'm Sean, your host. The website can be found at www.scriptureandprophecy.com. Well, today we're looking for a little wisdom, a little bit of encouragement from the Psalms and the Proverbs. We're ready for Psalm 54 today, which is only 7 verses, a Psalm of David. And then we're going to read Proverbs chapter 5, which continues the theme of the proverb writer writing to his sons. In this particular one, he's writing to his sons, and he's warning them about the dangers of fornication or adultery with a strange woman, how that eventually leads you right into hell, and that instead wisdom would be to satisfy yourself with a wife versus, the pleasures of a strange woman, which is definitely a word for the generation today and for many generations and really for all generations. So, without further delay, let's begin, starting with reading the first 7 verses today for Psalm chapter 54. Here's what it says. Save me, O God, by thy name, and judge me by thy strength. Hear my prayer, O God. Give ear to the words of my mouth. For strangers risen up against me, and oppressors seek after my soul. They have not set God before them. Selah. Behold, God is mine helper. The Lord is with them that uphold my soul. He shall reward evil unto my enemies. Cut them off in thy truth. I will freely sacrifice unto thee. I will praise thy name, O Lord, for it is good. For he hath delivered me out of all trouble, and mine eyes hath seen his desire upon mine enemies. Proverbs chapter 5. My son, attend unto my wisdom, and bow thy ear to my understanding, that thou mayest regard discretion, and that thy lips may keep knowledge. For the lips of a strange woman drop as a honeycomb, and her mouth is smoother than oil, but her end is bitter as wormwood, sharp as a 2-edged sword. Her feet go down to death, her steps take hold on hell. Lest thou should ponder the path of life, her ways are movable, that thou canst know them. Hear me now, therefore, O you children, and depart not from the words of my mouth. Remove thy way far from her, and come not nigh the door of her house. Lest thou give thine honor unto others, and thy years unto the cruel, lest strangers be filled with thy wealth, and thy laborers be in the house of a stranger, and thou mourn at the last, when thy flesh and thy body are consumed, and say, How have I hated instruction, and my heart despised reproof, and have not obeyed the voice of my teachers, nor inclined my ear to them that instructed me. I was almost in all evil in the midst of the congregation and assembly. Drink waters out of thy own cistern, and running waters out of thy own well. Let thy fountains be dispersed abroad, and rivers of waters in the streets. Let them be only thy own, and not strangers with thee. Let thy fountain be blessed, and rejoice with the wife of thy youth. Let her be as the loving hind and pleasant roe. Let her breast satisfy thee at all times, and be thou ravished always with her love. And why wilt thou, my son, be ravished with a strange woman, and embrace the bosom of a stranger? For the ways of a man are before the eyes of the Lord, and he pondereth all his goings. His own iniquity shall take the wicked himself, and he shall behold him with the cords of his sins. He shall die without instruction, and in the greatness of his folly he shall go astray. And so there's the end of the proverb. The writer's just warning. He's warning his sons. Look, at the moment, the lips of a strange woman, yeah, it's like honeycomb. It's like her mouth is smoother than oil. But the end of this thing is bitterness. Her feet go down to death, and her steps take hold on hell. He says, remove thy way far from her, and come not nigh to the door of her house, lest thou give thy honor unto others, and thy ears unto the cruel. In other words, it's not going anywhere good. It's not going anywhere good. Instead, you need to satisfy yourself with the wife of your youth, and let her be as the loving hind and the pleasant roe. Let her satisfy you at all times, and be ravished with her love. He says, why would you be ravished with this strange woman and embrace the bosom of a stranger? Especially knowing this, for the ways of a man are before the eyes of Jehovah, before the Lord, and he pondereth all his goings. His iniquity shall take the wicked himself, and he shall behold him with cords of his sins. In other words, God is paying attention. And we're just binding ourselves up when we chase after the pleasures. Well, that's actually the end of our podcast this morning. Very, very short. Typically not this short, but I don't think there's any reason just to ramble for the sake of rambling. I do want to say thank you to the Patreon subscribers and to those who donate through PayPal. You guys are the only reason that this is able to happen, and I appreciate the support. It means a lot, and your generosity is always more than I deserve, and I appreciate it very, very much. You can support the podcast at scriptureandprophecy.com. Also at that website is all the archives. You can find all the old podcasts. There's links to a different series of podcasts that we've done over the years. And also there's a banner there where you can find the devotional book, which was written to encourage and help people understand the times that we're living in, with short reads every single day. And you can find that by going to scriptureandprophecy.com/book. Well, I hope you've been blessed this morning, even though the podcast was extremely short. Thank you again for listening. The plan is to podcast today, tomorrow, and Thursday, but we'll see how things go. Peace and grace be with all of you, and until next time, God bless.